From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, we continue to work our way through June. Major League Baseball is the dominant sport right now as far as garnering headlines. I know you've got Major League Soccer going on, the WNBA, and some other stuff. But the Minnesota Twins, always keeping it interesting, aren't they?
Yeah.
And not necessarily for good reasons.
No, I mean, they've been hovering around 500 and hovering at the top of the American League Central, which nobody seems to want to win. Basically, since day one, they got off to a good start, but really haven't done much since early in April to make you think that, hey, this is a playoff team or this is a team that can make a deep run in the postseason. I just don't see it. I mean, the only thing that you can say that has been consistent, the starting pitching for the most part has been fairly strong. And, they've been leaning on those guys. And, even Joe Ryan, who has been their best pitcher so far, got knocked around a little bit this past weekend. So, yeah, if they start hitting, I think that they can and will win the division. But I don't know what tells you that they're going to start hitting. They swing and miss more than anybody in baseball. They are on a record pace. They could break the all-time record for whiffs.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's free air conditioning out there at trendy Target Field with this 90-degree heat we've been going through. I don't know. The biggest ally the Minnesota Twins have right now is the location, the geography, right. The AL Central. It is so mediocre. It's up for grabs. The question is, will anybody in that division make a move or two before the trading deadline to bolster or fortify their roster? Because it's really not usually how the Twins do business, right? Typically.
No.
They don't make a splashy move in late July. Cleveland, that's not really their MO either.
No.
Would Detroit do something? Do they feel like this is the year to go all in? Or the Chicago White Sox? I don't know if any of them truly believe they're good enough to win. But somebody's coming out of this division. And the only hope now is if you look around sports, there's so many examples of teams that are low seeds making deep runs, like the Florida Panthers or the Miami Heat. Or, a few years ago, St. Louis won 84 games and the Cardinals won the World Series. I mean, it can happen.
No. How about the Twins? When did they win back in 1987? Right? 87 was the year. Did they win 87
Something
games?
Something like that, or 85?
I thought they won 85 that year. Yeah. All right. So you say it's not their MO. But it wasn't their MO to sign Carlos Correa either, right? I mean, that was out of the ordinary for Minnesota. How about going and getting Paul Goldschmidt? It sounds like he is going to be shopped around by the St. Louis Cardinals. Stick him at first base. First base has kind of had a rotating door on it this year. I don't know. Why not?
Well, I don't think
other than paying him.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody in Twins territory that wouldn't take Paul Goldschmidt. He's an all-star. And
at Target Field?
Exactly. That would be a slam dunk, yes. Now, do the pull ads want to fork out that kind of money? How would it work? Do you rent him for the rest of the season and then he walks away? I mean, when they got Carlos Correa, they did sign him for all of 2022, right. But the conventional thinking was one and done. This is a truck stop. He'll get back into the free agent market and sign a more lucrative deal. And he did with San Francisco, and that thing splintered. And he did with the New York Mets, and that thing didn't pan out. So he came back like a boomerang to Minnesota. And you are right. Give the Twins credit. They have paid some money recently. Carlos Correa, Josh Donaldson, Joe Mauer.
Nelson Cruz.
But they typically don't want to do it to more than one or two guys.
Yeah, well, and their guy right now is Carlos Correa, and he's started to hit a little bit better. I mean, it's been a mostly down but up and down year for him. He's come around over the last couple of weeks. But, a guy like Goldschmidt, a righty at Target Field, righties have typically done pretty well over the long haul at Target Field.
Yeah, that second deck is very inviting. And if you can turn on a ball, boy, you can just crush it. We've seen a lot of guys do it, whether they're with the Twins like Brian Dozier, back in his epic home run season.
42 that one year.
Right, as a second baseman. Or I remember Nelson Cruz coming in as a visitor, or Jose Bautista, and then Cruz with the Twins. Yeah, they took advantage. Carlos Correa last week had the walk-off home run. I was at the game against it was the middle of the week series last week against Milwaukee off the ribbon board, facing of the second deck, walked it off. So Yeah, what is going to be the Twins' MO? Or do they stand pat?
No, they'll probably stand pat. You might have sellers. I mean, the Twins might be sellers. Who knows?
Here's what I would do right now, though. If I were Rocco and managing this team, I'd go get a glove. I'd walk up to Byron and say, here you go.
Go
You're
play
playing
center field.
the rest of the
Absolutely.
season. And don't think about these 0 for 4s you've been having and the struggles at the plate since he came off the IR. Go out and play. Michael A., I'm going to move you over to right field. I value what you've given us, and I still do. But it's time to get Byron in the outfield. It just is.
Yeah, I agree. And as you said, many times before, if he gets into the outfield, maybe he can forget about what's gone on wrong at the plate and his multiple strikeouts. He's the strikeout king now. He's taken over for Miguel Sano, although you got Joey Gallo, too. You got a lot of guys that in that lineup that strike out a lot. And
might as well bring back Miguel Sano. Let's officially set this record. You had the Bomber record, now you can have the whiff record.
Oh, boy. Yeah, you bring Miguel back, you definitely would have that record. Flip side, off the field issues. Our guy Jorge Lopez went on to the injured list with a mental illness situation, mental health, I guess it would be. You hate to see it, but the good news is it's recognized, and Major League Baseball is climbing on board, saying, yeah, maybe you do need some time off to kind of get things straightened out. And we don't know exactly what's going on or what caused it, but certainly it doesn't help that he has struggled, particularly the last month and a half on the field.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, these guys swim in a fishbowl. I mean, yeah, they have they're playing Major League Baseball. They're compensated. It's a lucrative profession. They travel in luxury. A lot of perks, right? But you are publicly on display every night, and your failures are magnified. Everybody knows about them, and social media can be a cesspool. I mean, there's so many haters out there, and I'm glad that MLB is allowing the Twins and Jorge Lopez to deal with whatever the issues are. This right now is about Jorge the human being, not Jorge the relief pitcher. He has struggled in Minnesota. He was very good in Baltimore. Let's hope he comes back. We saw this with Serena Williams,
right.
Simone Biles, Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Some of these athletes have been trailblazers now. Now, look, you and I poke fun at the Twins for coddling the guys over these real minor injuries, but this is a totally different category. This is real. This is serious. I think the Twins are handling it very well.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully he's able to bounce back, come out of this, play baseball again at a high level, and help the Twins because, they're counting on Jorge Lopez. They want him to succeed. They certainly do, and they want him to be part of it. Now, he had moved kind of to the back of the bullpen. I mean, he wasn't, he came here as a closer. He's not the closer now. He's not even the setup guy now in most cases. He's basically kind of a middle inning.
And one of the guys Baltimore got, this Yamir Cano, is an ideal bridge guy for the Orioles, who are doing very well. It does make you wonder, and we don't know what the specific reasons for Jorge going on the IR, what they are. But you think about Scott Norwood, or you think about Bill Buckner, or Gary Anderson, some of these guys who have had these screw ups in prime time on the huge stage in Super Bowls or title games, right, or World Series or whatever. They're human beings. You know how much that affected Bill Buckner? That missed ball at first base, Boston and the New York Mets back in 1986. He had to move to Montana. The Red Sox fans were so cruel. And that's where you got to draw a line, folks. I mean, it's a game.
Yeah.
You made a mistake.
Yeah.
You move on.
Yes, indeed. We're going to switch sports in our next segment, I hear.
Yeah, we're going to get physical. Rugby.
All right, we'll do that.
All right, stick around. A lot more coming up. 10K takes your Twins ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. 10,000 Takes rolls along. and we are going to shift gears and talk about a sport that we don't often dip into, but it is here in the Twin Cities this weekend. As a matter of fact, there is a tournament that's going to be played out at the TCO Performance Center, which is where the Vikings train, of course, and there are 8 teams, 4 men and 4 women. So we'll find out more about it as we talk to our guest today, Catherine KJ Johnson, who is from the Twin Cities, went to high school at Hopkins, so she was a Hopkins Royal, and she is among the players who are in town to play in this weekend, training all week here in the Metro, and then playing on Saturday out at TCO Performance Center. First of all, KJ, give me a little bit of insight as to what this professional tour is and what you guys are hoping to do by playing here in the Metro.
I think we all have different goals when it comes down to what our goals are to playing in the Metro. For me, it's really special because it is my home. I'm really excited to bring this culture and environment to the cities and show some really close friends and relatives that don't really get to travel much and watch me play what it's all about.
How excited are you to play at the TCO Performance Center? Because that venue, obviously, the Minnesota Vikings are there for training camp and various events. Minnesota Aurora Soccer plays there. They've drawn huge crowds. Now you get your tournament there. It's grass. It's outdoors. It's really, I think, a great situation. Would you agree?
I would agree. It's a really cool stadium. I had the pleasure of seeing a couple of Aurora games just a couple weeks ago, and they are awesome. They are an amazing team here in the Minneapolis area, so if you haven't seen them, go check them out. But it gave me goosebumps to watch them doing their thing on a field that we get to do some really cool magic on in a couple of days here, in a week.
All right, give me the Reader's Digest version. Explain the game of rugby, because most of our viewers and listeners don't know much about this game. It's very popular worldwide, gaining popularity here in the U.S. Give me an idea of what people should look for and compare it to maybe some of the sports we have in the U.S. Football is obviously the first thing that comes to mind, but you take it from there.
Totally. I mean, football's a great one, but also basketball. Basketball is an amazing sport to have transition athletes coming from. They understand space, ball awareness, they have great hands and passing skills. So I would compare it to basketball, wrestling. You got some track stars out there who love flying down the sideline. It's a lot of amazing athletes from all over the board coming out of the U.S. But it's just fast-paced. So sevens is a really special game of rugby where you have 7 people on each team, and it's the same size field as you would play on in 15s. It's a 70 meters by 100 meters. So it's open field tackles, fast-paced, big passes, awesome playmaking. It's one of the coolest sports, in my opinion.
All right. The physicality of it. Is it as physical as football? Maybe more physical? Hockey, another sport where there's a lot of, banging and, people running into each other. Where does it rank with those sports, or maybe another one, on the scale of physicality?
I would say the physicality is up there, obviously. I don't think it's any harder than football. Like, the pads give us this false sense of security when I watch football. But in reality, it's more like a wrestling takedown when it comes to rugby. So you got your double legs and add a little speed to it. So, I mean, with the speed that we're running at, it does look massive and it is fun to watch. But when it comes down to the technique of the tackles, there's a lot of rules and regulations on how to tackle properly with safety involved.
At the age of 31, you've been playing this game for how long, and how did you get into it, and how long do you think you're going to want to keep playing?
I've been playing for about 25 years. My parents both met playing rugby at the U of M here in Minnesota. So my brother and I, we had the opportunity to play at young ages. It's awesome. I'm definitely grateful for every game I get to play on from here on out, especially at this level. This level is something that most rugby players don't have the privilege of seeing. And so, yeah, I'm very honored and excited to get back on the pitch with these women.
KJ, what are the specific skill sets you need to succeed at rugby? Is it a combination of strength and stamina, balance, agility. Tell me what it takes for a younger viewer out there if they want to get into rugby. What do you need to be good at?
All the above. Like, it's cool because teammates that are great at so many different things. You can have a player that is just really quick but doesn't have acceleration, and that's fine because they can set you up all day. Then you have those speedsters that are going to burn people on the outside. You have those hard hitters that are going to lay people out and create turnover ball. I wouldn't say one thing, honestly. Anyone that plays rugby that enjoys it is going to be good at it. It's all about the joy and the community because it's just an awesome place to be.
In addition to your skills as a rugby player, you are also a Minneapolis firefighter. Tell me how you got into that and what keeps you involved as a Minneapolis firefighter.
Well, my mom was actually a Minneapolis firefighter before I was, and she did a really good stint, a long stint there. Really did a good job. Everyone respects her there. And so coming back from the Olympics, she asked me what my next plan was, and I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow at that point. So he was like, you know what, come and try out for the fire department, and we'll do our best to support you.
Wow, following your mom's footsteps both in the fire department and as a rugby player. Well, that's good stuff. Thanks, KJ. Appreciate it. Good luck this weekend out at TCO Performance Center. By the way, they will play on Saturday at TCO Performance Center, both men's and women's games. So there's 8 games in all day Saturday, so it should be a lot of fun. All right, stay with us. We'll be back with more. We're going to talk some stadiums around Major League Baseball and more here on 10,000 Takes.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Well, we are in the heart of baseball season, and apparently some of the places where some of the Major League's finest teams is not good enough anymore. They want more. It's not good enough to play at, well, I shouldn't call Kansas City Royals one of Major League Baseball's finest teams, but apparently the Kauffman Stadium is no longer good enough. Apparently, Camden Yards is no longer good enough. Apparently, Progressive Field is no longer good enough. I mean, you can go down the list, all these teams, and you were at one of those stadiums where it's not good enough anymore this past week.
Well, you're exactly right. And that was American Family Field in Milwaukee, which opened in 2001 as Miller Park, retractable roof venue. Back then, that was very novel. So the Brewers thought they had the best of both worlds. We'll play when it's cold with the roof shut. We'll open it up on a gorgeous 80-degree day like I saw on Saturday, Brewers and Pirates. So I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. I moved around the ballpark, checked it out. My kids went with me. We had a great time. And, it's a huge parking lot. There's tailgating. And from my perspective, there's nothing wrong with that ballpark. But apparently the Brewers want $448 million to renovate it. There's cracks in the roof and the foundation, and I guess the roof doesn't work that well. Well, here's what I say. Just keep the roof open. Just play like the Twins do in April when it's chilly and deal with it. And the other thing is, there's no appetite for, the public doling out this kind of money, especially for a ballpark that isn't that old. And then you mentioned Kansas City. I was there in late May. There's no way, shape, or form the Royals should be talking about leaving Kauffman Stadium. It's 51 years old, but it's aged better than a Hollywood starlet. I mean, it's had a couple of makeovers and a renovation not too long ago. That's a gorgeous ballpark. It's one of my favorites.
Well, and not only do they want a new stadium, it's going to cost $2 billion because they want an entertainment complex to go along with the brand new stadium. And, as you said, I mean, I have heard very few, if any, complaints about playing baseball at Kauffman Stadium from the players or from the fans. And they just had a renovation, 13, 14 years ago, back in 2009. They spent $250 million, so $250 million to update and renovate Kauffman Stadium, and now that's out the window.
And you know what? If they really want this entertainment center, then build it across I-70, which is right outside of Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead where the Chiefs play. You can figure this out. But they want to go downtown and extort more money from the public. And, this is all a money grab. That's the unfortunate thing about all of this. And it never ends. And right here in Minneapolis, Target Center, we know A-Rod and Mark Laurie are going to want their version of what they have in Seattle, Climate Pledge Arena.
Or Milwaukee.
How about the Fiserv Forum?
Yeah.
I saw that the other day in Milwaukee. And it's a gorgeous-looking building in the Deer District, which is a pretty trendy place now. But that shiny thing is what the T-Wolves are going to want. But my point is, I think Target Center is fine. They put $150 million into that a few years ago. I don't have any issues with Target Center. I'm sorry. I think we have other worries.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago, oh, by the way. 2017, you put $148 million into Target Center, and now, I have a feeling that your guy A-Rod and Mark Laurie are going to want more, as you said. They're going to want something that looks like either Seattle or Milwaukee, and I think it's basically, you use the word, and I think we can use it. It's extortion.
There's no doubt.
It really is. You're telling the public in that town, if you want this piece of entertainment, you're going to have to pay for that building. And as much as a proponent as I was to get the Twins out of the Metrodome and over to Target Field and to get the Gophers into their own stadium on campus, we've gone nuts, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and in some cases, believe me, I've lobbied for new ballparks and venues in the Twin Cities for a long time. In some cases, it is necessary. The Oakland A's have got to find a way to get a stadium in Oakland or they're going to move, which apparently they are, to Las Vegas. At least I understand that. I don't agree with it. Tampa, St. Pete, they should do something with Tropicana Field to fix the Tampa Bay Rays situation. But in the case of the Brewers or the Royals or the Orioles or the Guardians, these are functional venues that now have some tradition. That's the good thing about Kauffman. It's 51 years old. The only stadiums ahead of it would be Angel Stadium, Dodger Stadium, Wrigley Field, Fenway Park. What about valuing tradition? They don't care about that. It's just a money grab. And that new Bucks Arena, by the way, $1.2 billion. So
Wow.
if the Timberwolves got one, it would be north of that.
So it's going to cost more to put up a new Target Center, so to speak, than it did to build U.S. Bank
Yes.
Stadium, which was just built 7 years ago.
Exactly. And I think we're
crazy.
going to get to a contentious point. I don't know when, but as soon as they go to St. Paul, A-Rod, and Mark Laurie with their hands out saying, time for the new arena, we need the funding, I think that's when you're going to start hearing all the threats and rumors. Well, we can go to Seattle, Kansas City, Las Vegas. There's places that would take us.
Yeah, well, there probably are places that would take them. And you know what I would say? Sayonara. See you later. I have no appetite for seeing them build a brand new venue in a stadium that was, or in an arena that was just built just renovated 6 years ago. That's
I'm with
crazy.
you. And not only that, and I don't want this to happen, trust me. I want the T-Wolves to stay here.
course.
But if they did leave, and you got a new ownership group in here that said, okay, I want an expansion team, somebody come here, and maybe that would be the best for all, because it's not like the Timberwolves have this model of success, this blueprint of how to win.
They're the bloat, remember?
They are.
The biggest losers of all time. They are a train wreck year after year after year.
Yeah.
And at some point, they're probably going to trade Karl Anthony Towns, and he'll go win a championship someplace else, in a new arena someplace else.
Of course. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah. How about Las Vegas? A new ballpark in Vegas. What do you think about that? Is that going to happen?
Well, it sure looks like it. I think the Nevada politicians are just drooling over the chance to add the major league scene to, what is already the entertainment capital, maybe, on the globe, right? It's Las Vegas. Even before pro sports, they had a lot going on, rumor has it. But now you got the Golden Knights. They won the Stanley Cup. The Aces have done very well in the WNBA.
You got the Raiders.
The Raiders are there, and now here comes potentially the A's. The NBA has to be saying we got to get in there.
Yeah.
The building's already there, T-Mobile. I still think the A's are making a colossal mistake. I don't think Vegas, after the honeymoon's over, can fill that thing up 30,000 fans a night, 81 times a year. And that's what they're promising. Promising.
They're going to be like the Seattle
But don't
Pilots.
believe anything these folks tell you, because I remember when the Vikings wanted out of the Metrodome and the Wilfs said, well, we used to go to Giant Stadium with our father and sit outside in the elements. I want to bring that back. Well, it was bait and switch, and I took the hook, and I'm never taking the hook again.
We'll see about that. All right, Takes of the Day coming up next. You are watching 10,000 Takes.
They built a dome.
Your extortion ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years.
I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
$10K takes on television. We're close to wrapping up yet another episode, but before we go, takes of the day. Are you an angry American, a grumpy guardian, happy camper, salty sea dog? What is it today?
What is wrong with you anyway? Lots, actually. Well, there was nothing wrong with a guy who played for the University of Minnesota and who made his major league debut 50 years ago this week. As a matter of fact, June 19th, 1973, St. Paul native, University of Minnesota star David M. Winfield made his debut as a San Diego Padre. And of course, he went on to play for the New York Yankees beginning in 1981, where George Steinbrenner rolled out the checkbook and gave him buco bucks to come to New York City, and eventually landed in baseball's Hall of Fame. Look, if you ask Winfield today about how he was as a player back then, he would tell you that he could have been the Shohei Ohtani of Major League Baseball. He was the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball in his final year in 1973. He pitched the Golden Gophers to the College World Series, where they made it deep into the World Series because of his right arm. And oh, by the way, Dick Siebert in his final year, Winfield's final year, also had him play in the field. So you were getting both ends of what Dave Winfield could do. He could hit, he could throw, he could run, and he could pitch. And he led the Gophers, as I said, deep into the College World Series. He only got tired, I believe it was in the semifinals. He tired in the ninth inning, and they blew a 7-0 lead, much like
Nick, that was against USC.
Yeah, it was a Minnesota team
meltdown.
back in 1970. It's been happening forever, folks. But anyway, the point of my take is to salute Winfield. Here we are 50 years later, and what he could have been. You know, very few players go from college baseball into Major League Baseball. It still hasn't happened. Here we are, 2023. They're still not doing it. So hats off to David Winfield, perhaps the greatest athlete in the history of the state of Minnesota.
All right, let's check that mood meter. Wow, happy camper.
Yes,
You're in the green. It's not a fire danger show like it is when you step outside in this drought here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, the upper Midwest. Well, that's good to see.
Yeah.
Your blood is not boiling.
No, I'm not blowing any heat this time around.
And I don't disagree with you. Dave Winfield's certainly one of the all-time great multi-sport athletes
Absolutely.
we've seen in pro sports. All right, well, I'm a little bit more upset than you are this week.
Okay.
My take of the day, I'm going to throw some shade at the NFL. I don't think the NFL respects its history. All we get now is domes. They don't care about weather games anymore. If the NFL could, they'd airbrush the Ice Bowl out of the history books, which, by the way, put the NFL on the map. And they're also just devaluing running backs. Well, it's all about the quarterback now. We got to put up these circus-like numbers. We got to appease the fantasy football crowd. Well, guess what? I'm tired of it. Guys like Jim Brown, O.J. Simpson, Walter Payton, Chuck Foreman, Emmitt Smith, Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, they built the NFL into what it is now, a juggernaut. And the NFL doesn't care anymore about running backs. Look at Dalvin Cook, can't find a team. Look at Saquon Barkley, contract impasse with the New York Giants. Same thing Jonathan Taylor in Indy, same thing Josh Jacobs in Las Vegas. I'm tired of it. If I was a head coach, I'd go ground and pound just to spite Roger Goodell.
I'm sure you would. I don't know how many games you'd win, but you'd do
I'd
it.
have a strong defense and strong special teams. We'd win more than you think.
Okay.
On that note, let's FedEx out our thank yous. One to Alex Yambrick, David Weld, Rocky, KJ Johnson. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.